Chapter at 7 o'clock. Tonight, we're talking unemployment and what to do if you haven't been able to get through, you haven't been able to file. Our guest tonight is Gail Krummenauer, the Communications Director for the Oregon Employment Department. New numbers out today show nearly 300,000 Oregonians have filed unemployment benefits in the past week, 53,000 last week alone. How much money has the department paid out this last week?
That's correct. We have seen about 53,800 initial claims for unemployment benefits during the week from April 5th to April 11th, and that is in addition to about 243,000 initial claims received in the 3 weeks prior to that. What we have seen is that Oregon, as one of the early states to implement the first wave of the CARES Act implementation, the $600, we have seen the benefits that we've paid ramp up from a total of about 23,000 during the week that started March 29th to about 97 million in the week April 5th to April 11th, so quadrupling over the week. And that is because of the pandemic unemployment compensation program and for the record claims that we continue to process as we've ramped up and really increased our efforts to get money out to Oregonians who need it.
Great. And I think, did you mean 23 million? It's to 96 million, right?
23 to 97, yes. Okay. So quadrupling that over 1 week's time.
Okay, great. You know, we're still getting so many viewer comments and questions about not being able to get through on the phone or online to file. You know, what is the department doing to try to remedy that?
We have actually seen the vast majority of online claims go through successfully, and that continues to be the case. And it hasn't gone flawlessly, that's for sure. And because of that, we have created a dedicated COVID-19 page at oregon.gov/employee that does have sections about the CARES Act. We have implemented the Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program. We're bringing the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program for the self-employed and contract workers online. There's a section dedicated to that. There's a section dedicated to, there's an error on my claim. So for example, if you got a restart error, we implemented that fix on the weekend and posted that information there so that by the next afternoon, essentially everybody who'd had that problem knew that it was fixed and they could successfully file their weekly claim and did. So we are trying to create the most success that we can for everybody to file online, because we know that even though we have expanded the number of staff we have dedicated to claims and we have expanded the contact center hours that we have for people to call in, still there is just such an absolutely gigantic need for unemployment benefits right now that we need to be able to keep those phone lines open, because some people don't have access to the internet and some people have really complicated claims and have to talk to somebody. And so we want to make all the opportunities that we can for them to be able to file by phone at 1-877-FILED-4-UI.
And are you hiring new people? And if so, you know, what is the process for that right now?
Yes, we have hired quickly, and we continue to add more staff dedicated to taking claims. During the week of March 8th, which was the week before the first social distancing measures and COVID-19 closures were announced, we had about 100 staff that were dedicated to taking claims. And by 1 month later, that was up to 450. And so that is really what's been helping us, even though we know that the need is tremendous to get record numbers of claims out the door. We have processed more claims in the first 3 months of 2020 than we did for the entire calendar year of 2019.
Wow. And hours, what are your hours now? You said that you extended them.
The contact center hours, yes. You can call in from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we do have staff that are working hours beyond that, doing things like following up on the thousands and tens of thousands of emails that we're also getting in our unemployment insurance general mailbox, and they are working to try to also find ways that we might be able to start calling people back in the evening who are having trouble getting a hold of us during the day.
Okay. Gail, we have heard from viewers who've said, you know, they've tried to apply for weeks now and they have not been able to get through. Will they be able to get paid for the weeks that they were unemployed but they were unable to file?
Yes. We are not going to have Oregonians lose out on benefits that they were eligible for because it was difficult to get through on our phones or because you needed to contact somebody to fix something related to an error or getting additional information to us on your claim. We will, when you do get through to us, we will be able to take care of those prior weeks that you were eligible in addition to the current week that you need to claim for.
Okay, great. I think that a lot of people will feel relief after hearing that. And so Governor Brown has now said that your department can waive the 1-week waiting period for new claims. Where are you in terms of being able to do that?
We have prioritized as an agency doing what we can to get the most benefits to the largest number of affected Oregonians as fast as possible. And that so far has meant that we're prioritizing the CARES Act first. So the first thing that we could do the fastest to get the most benefits to the largest number of affected workers was implementing compensation. That's at $600 for people who are already regularly eligible for unemployment insurance benefits and who are already in our system or coming into our system. And now we are actively working to program pandemic unemployment assistance, which brings in a whole new and large group of self-employed contract workers and gig workers who need benefits just as bad. And we've never had a system set up for them. The same kind of records and payroll information that payroll employers give us, those records don't exist anywhere in our system for people who are self-employed or who are contract workers and some gig workers. And so we're trying to bring that large group of people who need benefits right now in there as soon as we can. And the waiting week is something that is a priority for us. It is. And it's also something that requires about 4,000 hours of programming. And in order to do that, we would have to stop or delay the record number of claims that we're processing and getting that out the door and into people's hands right now. And that's a difficult challenge, right? That's a difficult trade-off to make. And it's not something that any of us are super excited or pleased about, right? It is the choice that we have prioritized until now. And we will continue to look at options like waiving the waiting week. We just, so far to date, have really been prioritizing what we can do to get the most benefits to the largest number of affected Oregonians fastest.
Okay, a lot of headlines, a lot of stories about, the antiquated computer systems that your department uses and the fact that it's causing a lot of the delays. Anything you want to add to that conversation? I mean, I know it's frustrating for you as well, but anything else you want to tell us about that?
We are one of the states that does have a decades-old COBOL mainframe system, and it is actually built to be reliable. The thing that it's not built for so much is having a whole bunch of changes made to it and in rapid succession, the types of things that happen when we have these kind of record numbers of claims all coming in at once, and when we're programming in new types of benefits and making adjustments. Those are the kind of things that throw that system off a little bit. It is still continuing to process tens of thousands and hundred thousands of claims successfully and get money out the door to people who need benefits right now. And like I said before, none of us think that it's ideal that we're in this situation with this system that does have some complications in terms of programming. And we are in the process, we have been for a couple of years, of actually modernizing our system and moving on to a more modern system. And so that planning has been going on thoughtfully over the course of the last couple of biennia. And we actually, even as recently as a month and a half ago, were having vendor demonstrations to pick a vendor to help us actually overhaul our unemployment insurance benefit system. So that work is happening. It isn't implemented yet. And we know now more than ever really why it's so important.
Any conversations to bring back retired people? I know some other states that use the COBOL system are putting the call out saying, we need to bring these retired workers back to help us process these claims. Has Oregon had any conversations like that?
I think we've had all sorts of conversations about everything we can do to get everything taken care of, to get people benefits as they need. I don't have specific numbers on programmers. I know that we have been staffing up. I mean, particularly the claims is the thing that's most important, but, we're really doing our best to utilize all the resources that we can to be able to get the system to work the best that it can to get benefits to Oregonians.
And thank you so much, Gail Krummenauer, for joining us. For more information on what to do if you have not been able to file for unemployment benefits, you can check out the state's FAQ page, and we put a link to that on kgw.com under news links. At any time, you can send us your questions to the number on your screen, 503-226-5111. If we don't get your question tonight, we'll be answering your questions right here at 7 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. Up next, what about small business owners? What happens now that applications are no longer being accepted for the Paycheck Protection Program? But first, a question. You wanted to know how to track your stimulus check if you're still waiting for it. The answer: the government has launched a new tool to help. Just go to irs.gov and click Get My Payment. And welcome back. We're dedicating tonight's Q&A show to unemployment issues after a record number of Oregonians are now out of work. So a big question: what is the best way to get through to the Oregon Employment Department? Galen Etlin has the answer.
Work Systems is a nonprofit that helps people navigate the unemployment scene. So when you asked, should I apply online or should I call the State Employment Division, Roland Shaplowski with Work Systems says this:
1,000% apply online.
That's unless you don't have access to a computer or need interpretation services.
But for everyone else, if you can do this, your claims online, that will help it move more quickly for everybody.
He says if you got a confirmation number, the state got your claim. Just sit tight for about 4 weeks if you can, and if you haven't heard anything by then, it's time to call to check in. Work Systems, though, does have a lot of resources to help you out during this. Just search KGW Digital Q&A for a link to its page.
And the U.S. Small Business Administration said it's not accepting any new applications for the Paycheck Protection Program or for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So what happens now? Lindsay Nadridge has the answer.
The U.S. Small Business Administration processed 14 years worth of loans in less than 14 days, totaling more than $311 billion. But now they're not approving any new loans because the money has run out. SBA is now asking Congress to approve additional funds for the Paycheck Protection Program. SBA says it will be able to issue new loans when Congress approves additional funding.
Up next, what do you do if you don't feel safe right now at your workplace? We have an attorney with the answer. But first, you wanted to know, what if I haven't filed my 2019 tax return yet? Will I still get a stimulus payment? The answer: yes. The IRS will use the information from your 2018 tax return for your payment. And welcome back. Do you feel safe at your job if you're still working outside the home? What options do you have if you don't? I asked Portland attorney Joseph Haddad that question.
There are a couple of options for employees, and you may already know this, Kristen, but OSHA has received so many complaints over the past few weeks that in many ways I think it has dwarfed what most OSHA complaints have been submitted over the past calendar year. That is one avenue if an employee truly does believe that they are working in a dangerous or an unsafe workplace. If an employer is not either fully engaged in social distancing, I think appropriate hygienic standards and other really necessary precautions to protect on-site workers, then that employee has a legitimate concern. Now, what I would also suggest is that the employer should be engaged in looking at teleworking models. This pandemic, I think, is challenging employers to look at their own work models differently.
Okay, let's say teleworking is not possible. Is OSHA really their only avenue to try to get help here?
No, I mean, there are certainly, I think, other avenues that exist, especially if there aren't, I think, necessary safeguards in place. Naturally, an employee is free to call the Bureau of Labor and Industries. On the federal level, the Department of Labor, if there is not specific concerns that are being addressed by the employer. And they can certainly call an attorney as well in order to determine what their rights are. But if what we are talking about is an essential business, and the employer is engaged, I think, in a proper model to facilitate safe working conditions, an employee is obligated to meet their schedules, to discharge their responsibilities. But an employee does need to prioritize, I think, the things that are important to them. And if they really do believe that this is something that is simply too dangerous to carry out, that they very well may find themselves in a position to be turning down work, facing separation, which makes this a very, very challenging dilemma for employees if they are being summoned to go to work, and they simply do not believe it is a safe working environment.
And up next, can stimulus check money be garnished or seized to pay for debts? We'll answer that question and more related to the stimulus check. But first, you wanted to know, who do I call if my workplace is violating Governor Brown's stay-at-home order? Well, the answer, you can file a report with OSHA online at osha.oregon.gov. And if you're in Portland, you can also call the Portland Police Bureau's non-emergency line to report violations, 503-823-3333.
Gov.
And welcome back. You might have gotten your stimulus check already. Others are wondering, where their money is. Jason Puckett from our Verify team answers some of your common questions.
We're going to break down some of the top questions that many of you have sent us about stimulus checks. First up, can stimulus check money be garnished or seized to pay for debts? Yes and no. The CARES Act says the federal government cannot take these checks for most debts, including if you owe past taxes or student debt. But if you owe child support or other private debts to banks or collectors, the checks can be seized to pay for those. Next, many of you emailed us frustrations about the IRS site because you got this, quote, payment status not available screen. So what does this mean? Well, according to the IRS, it shows up if you don't qualify for a payment, if you didn't file a tax return in 2018 or 2019, if you filed through another part of their site for non-filers, or if you're a Social Security or Railroad Retirement recipient. Now, before you assume the worst, it can also show up if your information you type doesn't exactly match what's on your tax return. I personally had to capitalize the name of my road to get it to work. And finally, a few people asked if they have to pay tax filing companies to get their money. No. Some tax filing companies have put together tools to help people navigate these payments. And some of those tools also show options for paid tax services. But the bottom line here is that you don't have to use any of those. The IRS has its own site where you can put in your information and check your refund. Anything asking for money is for other tax services not related to the stimulus check. If you've got more questions, send us an email. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
And remember, the IRS has only sent stimulus money via direct deposit so far. They haven't sent payments to Social Security recipients yet. And if you're waiting on paper checks, those won't even start mailing out until the end of April. Now, if you would rather get a direct deposit, you can log into the IRS site, irs.gov, and give them a bank account to send your money to rather than waiting on that paper check. If you're wondering how much you should get, we've made that easy. Text the word check to 503-226-5111. We'll send you a link to a stimulus check calculator. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're dedicated to answering your questions about the coronavirus Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock. On Fridays, tomorrow, you'll see Straight Talk with Laurel Porter at 7. She's also focusing on the coronavirus situation here in Oregon. If you still have questions, our past stories may answer them for you. You can go to kgw.com/answers to see all of our past stories and all of our past Q&As.